Alright, what is going on, everybody? mYinsanity versus Kyo of Fallen, Project Belgium, Daniel and Sito versus Sorakuma, Cloud, and Demon Sheep. Kyo of Fallen has been playing together for a longer time, but they're individually weaker players. mYinsanity, absolutely the up-and-coming team of the pro scene over here, both as the individuals in it, and also as a team. It's a pretty new team as well in the AoE 2 scene. I think it's a Swiss esports organization that decided to contract their free players over here. With me is Aussie Drongo, who is going to be helping out me cast these wonderful games as we jump into the first one. And the Drongo is gone. Is he gone?
I'm here. I'm here. I'm waiting for the introduction. I was going to say something about looking forward to casting the games on Canberra because, as you know, Canberra is my hometown. But today we spawn in on Arabia, so it's a little bit different. I'm not from Arabia, but it is definitely one of my favorite maps, though. So spawning in the south of the map, we've got Sorakuma, and he's playing on the flank, so going to be opening up with our cavalry. His partner, Demon Sheep, going to be playing on the Chinese in the west of the map on the color green, looking very nice. We've got a bit of an archery opening because obviously he's on the Chinese. Their opponents in the north of the map is, I want to pronounce it Sitao. I'm not sure if that's correct. Maybe you can help me out here, Lidicor. But they're going to be playing the Vikings, one of the hotly contested civilizations. Curious to see that not only were Vikings picked, but they didn't get banned here.
Exactly, and it's a thing that the Demon Sheep's team didn't actually end up banning Vikings. Vikings is probably the ultimate archer civilization of Empire Wars. It doesn't give you any bonuses for your archers. It's a matter of them having potentially the best Empire Wars economy. So really, we'll see how good those economies is going to be. And on the other side, an interesting civilization for Project Belgium. Not something that you often see on Empire Wars Arabia. It's Khmer. So there's a couple of fun stuff about Khmer here. For example, that they don't need to drop off food from farms. They just pretty much trickle the food from farms, which means you can place farms whenever you want. And the other nice thing is that you can jump into houses with villagers. Only civilization that can do that, which means you can place houses in positions where you just want to garrison them on your wood lines.
That is an incredibly strong bonus. I would love to have that. And one of the things that I also love about the Khmer player, Project Belgium, is that he's actually walling up nice and early in the game. Speaking of walling up, Sorakuma doing a pretty decent job of getting in behind the walls of his opponent, Sitao, at the moment. I'm going to need your help with the pronunciation of our yellow player. Tell me how you pronounce it, Lidicor.
I think it's Sito. It's like, oh.
Right, Sito. Okay, cool. All right, well, I'll go with that. But now we see those continuous scout pressures around Sorakuma doing a pretty good job of getting all that wall all the way up. But still our red player, it's almost like I'm being hit with a little bit of deja vu here. The red player not quite walling up all the way. And Sorakuma looking to come in, do a little bit of punishment. First villager going to get targeted down, but the single spearman just says, hey, get off it. And is able to overcome the large mass of scouts. Look at him just standing there with that spear, scaring them off. But now the scouts moving in, beginning to attack villagers. Let's see if they single out that low HP villager. It is moving back towards the town center. Its health is running low, but that spear coming in once again to save the day. Getting a few pokes off on those green, but a villager does go down. Tough luck for Project Belgium here, as more villagers also going to be going down, and we see once again our red player not walling up and at a cost of villagers. Is it really worth it, is the question you've got to be asking. 3 villagers gone down to my count right now. Probably actually 4 or 5.
That's
is that
a lot
6
more.
Villagers? How many villagers is that? 9 villagers. Well, I guess not only do I need to go back to the drawing board, I need to go back to grade 2 and learn how to count, because in Australia, that's when we learn how to count.
Yeah,
that is ridiculous.
This is so awkward for Project Belgium. The thing is that he could have jumped into that house if he wanted to. It kind of felt like he really wanted to get that tower up, because looking at those resources, he wanted to go up to Castle Age early. But that was maybe a little too ambitious, and when there's so much heat and so much pressure in your face, you suddenly forget about the ability to jump into houses. It happens a lot, that you just have to focus on so many things that you completely forget about that option. Project Belgium's economy is as battered as it gets.
Yeah, I've played League of Legends competitively, and there's a saying in League of Legends. It's where you just, FF go next. I feel like you got to do the same thing here. You know, you lost so many villages at this point. Just you're gonna lose your morale if you stay in this game. If you even try and win this game, there's no coming back from this. You know, if mYinsanity somehow managed to come back from this, I will eat my shoe. Fortunately, my shoe is made out of chocolate, so it's not really that much of a threat or a promise. But I will eat my shoe because I tell you what, that is just a huge hurdle to overcome.
I think that while this might look very scary, it's not actually that bad. Because there's a couple of things to observe here. First off, the Khmer farming eco is very powerful, so having a couple less villagers is something that you can afford. Obviously not -9, but you have a teammate that's Vikings and that's going for 4 archer ranges. So, looks like they want to finish this game, and when you look at the archer numbers, that's a pretty scary for the Taiwanese team over here. 9 archers as opposed to 22 here.
All right, I think I may have just lost you there, Lidiko. Are you still with me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, you can hear me. Wonderful. Sorry, the stream froze and Discord froze as well, but I think I'm back with you now.
Yeah, we are back. We were just saying that, well, obviously Project Belgium is set back compared to his cavalry counterpart Sorakuma. You also have to consider that probably Sito will be ahead of Demon Sheep, and the thing is that individually Project Belgium and Sito are better players than Sorakuma and Demon Sheep, so maybe just by having a slightly better macro for Project Belgium, he might be able to compensate for all those losses. He's definitely set back quite a bit. He has lost 13 villagers in this game. But, well, he is probably hoping that the Vikings economy will carry them because that is 4 archer ranges pronunciation.
That's a lot of archery ranges. I tell you what, 4 at this point, it definitely feels like it's something overwhelming. But we now say, is this a town center that's going to be dropped down on the front gold here for Sorakuma? So really looking to cement that early lead on the village account. Oh, excuse me, on that village account. Try and get it up any further. But score's looking relatively even in a huge archer mass right now that you mentioned for Sito. 4 archery ranges going to be doing a lot of work.
Yeah.
We take a look at the archer count at the moment. We've got 34 up against 18 crossbows at the moment. We do have that crossbow upgrade that's now just come in for mYinsanity as well. So they're going to be looking pretty formidable out on this map. What's the best counter to crossbows? I'm thinking mangonels. I would like to think knights, but, you know, I have run too many knights into crossbows and just lost all of them. So am I doing it wrong?
Nope, it's a matter of taking the fight at the appropriate place and time. That's the whole concept of 2v2. You have to really time your fights well. If you can isolate the archers from the cavalry, that can help. One of the things that you can do is try to hit the cavalry player. Because if you hit the cavalry player, the archer player has to react, and his army is much slower moving. But the best counter to archers in 2v2 is just having your own archers and having your teammate with cavalry. That's 40 archers, that's a brutal count. And since Sito is playing one town center, he's not really spending food on villagers. He could think about a 1TC Imperial play here. At this point, it's probably Project Belgium and Sito saying, okay, let's try this one. They know they're behind, but Sito has so many crossbows that maybe they can make something happen at the base of Sorakuma here.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing the right thing as well. The fact that they just went back, showed themselves on the line of sight, you can see that now the mYinsanity team has got to come back. They're chasing. You know, they were pushed up a significant point through the map, but now we can see just how far back they've had to run. And this is exactly what Kyle All Fallen needs to do to try and even up those numbers, because we did see, I think earlier in the game, it was 24 bows against 9, but now those numbers are beginning to even up. We see 34 against 49, starting to look a little bit more healthy now for Kaio All Fallen, and a little less sort of difficult for mYinsanity to overcome. We've got a bit of a fight now beginning to break out. Knights on Knights action. Going to be focused down by the crossbows, just doing absolute work at the moment. We can see that the Red Knights have got those +1 upgrades. They're all upgraded, looking very healthy, but a pretty nice little heal here for the green player especially. So it looks like the yellow player is going to have to fall back. Sato's decided that it wasn't appropriate, but a couple of reinforcements getting picked up now. Got to be careful. Where are these units pathing to at the moment? It looks like not only are all of them going to get picked off, he's only just realized now as they move down towards the south, and gosh, that is frustrating. You know, if there's one thing that goes together like chalk and cheese, it's Age of Empires series games and pathing. Unit pathing is just one of those things that's notoriously bad, but hopefully he can pull it together here. It's a bit of a timing attack that's coming in now, and the question is, Lidakor, are they going to be able to hold on?
This is gonna be a rough hold here, because we're talking in dimensions of 16 versus 33 crossbows. Twice the numbers, and it's not like those knight numbers are that much better. So it's 21 knights versus 15 over here, and some of those knights from blue are actually hitting Project Belgium's base. Obviously, Project Belgium is massively behind economically, but that's 81 army versus 58, and those crossbows are about to hit the back of this food line here as well.
Looks like I might have to be getting my shoe ready, because I tell you what, mYinsanity is looking pretty decent despite losing those villagers early on in this game. They might be down about 23 villagers at the moment, but now the knights beginning to attack the knights of their opponents. Kyle Fallen looking pretty good coming down here onto this spot. Not a significant amount of crossbows here for the yellow player, but obviously having that slight hill is going to give him that significant advantage. Once again, he's got the high ground down here towards the south. Anakin is going to have a difficult time fighting against this one. Looks like he's going to be losing a couple of arms. Even though he's got more crossbows, he's definitely taking a lot less effective of a trade there. Bit more action now back towards the base of Sorakuma as well. And now the fight really looks like it might be... They may definitely be heading towards a climax at this point, because the crossbow numbers are beginning to dwindle to almost 0. And now Project Belgium moving in to secure the knights, trying their best to just sort of get in amongst it, but the crossbows are doing their best just to focus it down. We see that the blue knights seem to be holding quite well at this point, despite all that DPS getting thrown out by the crossbows. Blue knights seem to be overwhelming the red knights. I don't know whether whether they've got upgrades or whether they just are slightly faster, slightly cooler perhaps. But definitely the Sorakuma Frank Knights are doing extra hard work today. And more crossbows now on the backline for Demon Sheep. It's going to be a difficult spot for him, though, because as they push towards closer to the town center, it's going to be just a really hard spot for Sido to push into this.
Exactly, that's a very nice defensive position for Sorakuma. One thing that made that fight easier for him was that he can reinforce his army much easier than Project Belgium can, but I think at this point, Sito's team has to be happy with this one. Because the thing is that the longer the game goes, the less of an importance that the early villager losses will have. And Sito looks like he's gonna play 4 town centers now. Demon Sheep is thinking about Imperial Age, as he's getting those resources ready for that. Sito, potentially as well. The problem for Project Belgium is that he's still playing 1 town center. He needs to expand that eco at some point, otherwise it's going to take a long time for him to recover.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like when I see 4 town centers for Sito, I'm getting excited. This is a man who likes to carry games. He started off with the 4 archery ranges and said, you know what, we're going to go ham on archers. He went ham, and now he's going to go ham on villager production. This is some crazy stuff. Obviously playing Vikings. Economy's going to be looking absolutely spick and spam. At the moment, only 137 villagers, down 23, but the fight beginning to unravel right now. Yellow crossbows looking pretty darn good. Being able to fend off those green crossbows. They're going to be careful, though, because they're on the opposite sides right now. Green and blue are friends. So are red and yellow are stuck in the middle, but that means that they're able to isolate and potentially force these fights to happen with a 2-on-1 situation, and that's not what you want. So you've got to be very careful of that happening. Nice little split here now from the French player with the knights moving in, but the high ground once again for the yellow player is going to mean that it's difficult for anybody to really engage here.
Exactly. The 2 archer players are both going into Imperial at the same time, and that's where those knights will start to become obsolete, because Arbalest will just destroy knights very easily. But as I said, the longer this game goes, the bigger the chance of Project Belgium is to recover, and he definitely has the food to mass-produce villagers. He just needs a bit of a stone to make some additional TCs. I think if Project Belgium is not getting pushed for like 5 or so more minutes, he's gonna be back in this game as if nothing happened.
I think you might be right. And not only that, but we've got Sito that's just so far ahead now, at least when it comes to infrastructure. Obviously, he's going to Imperial. So is Demon Sheep at the moment. So you mentioned that both archer players are on the way up. But it is for me at this point, I'm definitely looking at Sito. I'm looking at those town centers, and I'm feeling very confident on his part. it frustrates me to have called it early and now going to have to eat my own shoe. But, it's definitely looking pretty darn good at this point. We can see the way that he's posturing, just able to continue picking off these knights so that eventually now both players are reaching Imperial. Let's see what upgrades we've got coming in at the moment. We've got Lidicor. Tell us what we've got.
Yeah, Bracer and Arbalest coming in for both players. Chemistry is also queued up for Demon Sheep, but that takes a lot of time to get to, so that's not going to be a factor anytime soon. I appreciate that Project Belgium tried to take down the stable here, because one way to sort of compensate for your lack of economy and production of knights is to destroy the opponent's production buildings. Armor coming in for the archers here as well, so Demon Sheep is just a half a step ahead when it comes to upgrades in Imperial.
And that's exactly where you want to be in these sorts of fights, but where you don't want to be in these sorts of fights is on the bottom of the hill. We can see that, it's a very difficult spot for Kaio or Fallen taking this fight, trying their best to take it. The archer numbers have somewhat evened up pretty darn close at this point. Now they're going to begin pushing out. We can see that both players are getting in those all-important upgrades for the attack. It's going to be another 1 second, and now we've got the upgrade coming in for Demon Sheep, so going to have that slightly higher attack just for a short amount of time. And you can see just the amount of DPS that's coming off, and both players just posturing so damn carefully. It's curious to see that both players are just going that single unit composition, no tri-unit composition at all. There's no, we've got no pikes, there's no halbs coming out yet. It's just very strictly crossbows and knights, or arbalists and knights now.
I love this move on the left side from Sito. He's sending in a couple of arbs, and when you look at this fight, there's so much unit control involved here for Demon Sheep. There's a good chance he's not going to be looking at his base, and you can see the blue ping. It's his teammate telling him that, oh shoot, there's arbalests pushing you.
Yeah. It's a really difficult spot, and now we've got... This is a defensive castle that's going to be coming down. It's not going to be able to get completed because we've got too many arbs out. It's a really difficult spot now, so some more defensive arbs are coming out, and then at the same time getting pushed down. Looks like that stable may potentially go down, but these arbs are going to be able to break through. Now idling up a lot of the stone that's here as well, which means that he's not going to be able to drop down any more subsequent castles. The fight continues to reign over this single little hill. And the question is, how do you push them off this hill, Lidicor? What is the move that you make to try and break through this? Because your opponent is just going to continue sitting up here, continue applying pressure, and then allows sort of this map control to remain. And then we have exactly what's happening right now, where this split is occurring. And this can't continue on, because when your opponent's got map control, you've got to try and fight them for it. So what's the play? What do they do here? Is this where they look to potentially get a mangonel or two out to potentially deal with this?
Nope. I think that at this point, your best play is that you get to Imperial for Sorakuma and get to Cavaliers, so that you actually have better cavalry. But this is what I was talking about. Project Belgium is not that much behind. He's also going into Imperial, and these arbalests are doing work here for Sito. As we see the bunch of unreseeded farms, we see that, as discussed, Sito and Project Belgium are individually better players, and the macro starts to fall apart for Sorakuma over here.
Yeah, and this is exactly the point of the game, where being a better player is what pushes you much further. So in the early game, typically what you see is that better players, as the game goes on, are going to be able to sneak those wins out compared to lesser skilled players. So right now, they are in their comfort zone. They are feeling very comfortable because they've also pulled ahead in villager count. They're up 1 villager now, so they've completely closed that gap. They were down 11 villagers at the beginning of this game. It looked like GG was about to be seconds away from being called, but they stuck in it. And not only has mYinsanity managed to come back and even that villager count up, but they're pulling ahead, and they're starting to pull ahead now. So it's starting to look really good for them.
Exactly. The other thing to point out is that the cavalry of Sorakuma is pinned within his own base, which means that siege rams from Sito could easily push the base of Demon Sheep here, and Demon Sheep doesn't really have much to stop this one. With Arbalests won't do it, and it looks like Demon Sheep also has trouble with gold. No more gold remaining, for him only 6 on gold, and that's why he's making skirms, but skirms in 2v2s is a very disturbing sign, because that is just a clear sign that you're out of gold.
Aren't skirmishes meant to be the counter, though?
They are, but they die to cavalry so badly, so you don't want to make skirms, because then you have no answer to cavalry. So,
right.
Cavalry plus archers always beats cavalry plus skirmishers, because the cav can just focus down these skirms, and, well, it looks like the Arbs are just focusing down all these vills. Sorakuma's economy... Oh, excuse me, that's Demon Sheep's economy that's falling apart. He still has a brutal force, those 77 Arbalests. But, oh, now Project Belgium is diving in.
Oh, that's a lot of knights that are now beginning to dive in. Going to be taking down this town center. We talked about it earlier. What was it that could break through that that all-important hill? And it looks like nothing because they're going to be marching down that hill. Now we see the upgrade coming in as well. So Cavaliers is going to be in for Project Belgium. Going to be looking absolutely great as his opponent, Sorakuma, still yet to get those all-important upgrades. I say that actually, but we do actually spot that he does have the upgrades down here to the south. The Cavaliers looking all upgraded. Much nicer upgrades, but the difficult spot is that he's lost that town center. Villages are now idle. He's not going to be able to have those units flooding in just simply because he's going to be having those idle town centers or the idle villages rather. But now the fight looks like it's going to begin to break out. We see the Arbs pushing out the Arbalists of the yellow player. The Cavaliers beginning to move forward. The lovely pattern on the side of their horses slowly taking down. Is this the market right here? I think this is the market. This is the market. Yeah. All right. You guys might be like, oh, how does this guy not know it's the market? Well, there's lots of buildings and there's lots of civs that have different buildings and they all look a little bit similar, but I'm not sure. So I guess I probably should have just said the market. But anyway, the fight sort of... One of the things I've noticed with this game is they never really seem to commit to a fight. They're always just pushing each other right to the edges. So it's yeah, it's curious to see that they you know, the way that they play and the way that... Oh, we got some trebs out.
Yeah, exactly. Now, so Demon Sheep actually had to dispatch all his Arbalests. In fact, all the cavalry from Sorakuma was also dispatched to clean up this group of Arbs before. But in the moment they moved out, Project Belgium realized that there is an opening here. He just ran in, killed 50 or so villagers right now. And if we look at the villager KD now, Sorakuma has killed 16 and lost 84. Demon Sheep 1 and 63.
It's not where you want to be. It's not where you want to be, Lidico.
Exactly. Now, Paladin is about to be in for Sorakuma, and those Frankish Paladin also have more HP, so if there is ever a time to take this fight, it might be right now. Numbers relatively even. There is more Arbalest, but less Paladin here, but looks like mYinsanity has to abandon this position. Project Belgium switching to Elephants over here, which is going to be a lot more population efficient at the end of the game. Obviously, a lot slower moving than heavy cavalry is.
It's curious to see that we've got a switch now coming into these elephants. Do you think this is a wise choice?
It's hard to say. Khmer don't have access to Paladins, so they would lose a flat-out fight. On the other hand, you're gonna have way less mobility, so you're really gonna have to initiate the fights, like Project Belgium is doing on the left. The scary thing here is that if those Paladins get to your eco, you will never clean them up, and it's not like Project Belgium is that much ahead of Sorakuma. If those Paladins get in, it's gonna be a slaughter on the villagers, but it looks like this is not a good fight for the Taiwanese team.
It definitely doesn't look to be. It looks like they may potentially be getting cleaned up here. You can just see how many Arbs are sitting over on that left-hand side. The Paladins are just absolutely trying their best to defend, but it's going to be difficult. They seem, even though they're stronger, they just seem to be outnumbered, and good game gets called. Absolutely well played. Over to mYinsanity. Let me get that shoe, because I tell you what, it's time for me to eat it. That was an incredible game, and very well played by mYinsanity.
It was really well played. This is just sort of textbook gameplay of 2v2s. Not necessarily the Empire War section, it's the 2v2 section that you really need to decide well when it comes to take a fight and when it doesn't. And if you think about when did this swing heavily in the favor of Project Belgium and Sito, that's where Sito was able to dispatch a couple of Arbs to the left side, hit Demon Sheep's eco while he was focusing on the right. Same thing. Demon Sheep and Sorakuma move to the left. Project Belgium dives in immediately, takes down 2 DCs and 50 vills, and suddenly this game is in their hands. So at the beginning, Sorakuma and Demon Sheep were definitely clapping them, but then I think Project Belgium and Sito may have not just been warmed up appropriately here for the first half of the game, and it took some time for them to sort of get into the flow of things.
I think you might be right. It definitely felt that way, that, you know, not all of the engines were running, but I think now they're probably up to speed. Sito definitely looking very strong as well. I don't know whether that was just, you know, Vikings being the, the team that, well, not the team, but the civilization that's just, the number one go-to in 2v2 Empire Wars. But tell you what, that was some impressive stuff. If I was going to be picking a 2 versus 2 team or doing like a fantasy team, Sido, you're mine, mate.
Yeah, like you can tell that this was just about how you take these fights. This moment over here, when basically the Taiwanese team started losing the economy at the back, they losing their population share, and the last moments. So those are times where Sito and Project Belgium were able to take some fights or get some rating damage in that their opponents just weren't able to compensate for. The other thing is how good Sito was at keeping his army alive. Like, he barely lost any significant numbers. Whereas if you take a look at, for example, the Army of Demon Sheep, there is some dips over here. Losing army.
Yeah.
Still, part of that is Vikings' economy, but Chinese have a pretty decent economy themselves, so it wasn't really just the economy carrying them. Part of that was taking better fights in the second half of the game.
All right, so now that Sito and his teammate have won the first series, means that that Kaio or Fallen won the first game rather in the series. Kaio or Fallen are going to be looking to choose one of their home maps. Do you have any insight as to what map it may potentially be?
It's hard to say. Cape of Storms is a lot more cutthroat, very open, very aggressive, and that may favor them a little bit because it very much seems like in the first half of the game, Kaio Fallen was able to play a little bit more aggressive, and that pushed mYinsanity into a tough spot. Forest Pond is a lot more defensive, it's a lot more slower paced, so they have the option to choose between going for a very, very aggressive and cutthroat map, just to try and capitalize on their early game aggressiveness, or going for a map that is much slower paced, sort of to just calm things down, because you just lost the game. Sometimes going for a slower paced map helps reset things mentally, but it looks like they're going to Cape of Storms, so they want to play this one aggressively.
I wonder if we're going to be seeing the same players from last game or whether we're going to see a potential shift here. Does actually look like we may have a potential shift.
Exactly.
That, is coming forward.
As we do have a new player stepping in here for Kaio Fallen. There is Cloud, so looks like the Taiwanese team will use all three of their players in this one. That's something that they often do, so there is not a major surprise about that one. This is one of those teams that really doesn't have a backup player, so they always have all three of their players play. We're gonna have Sorakuma as Blue Aztecs in the left, and to the right of him is Hans for Cloud in green. Other side, Vietnamese for Sito in red, and Project Belgium is Berbers in yellow. The unique thing about this map, as we have the Eagle coming forward, is that you sort of have one player that's sheltered by the other. So, unlike other 2v2 maps where both players are sort of open from multiple directions, here you have one position that's much safer, and the other one is much more exposed.
Yeah, this is a map. I immediately saw the spawns and I said, now this looks like a fun map. Especially when you can pick your positions. You've got that nice safe pocket position that sits at the back. It's a little bit surprising, honestly, that I see Sito sitting on the front. I genuinely thought he's going to be in the pocket. He's going to have those 4 TCs up again. It's going to be magical. So curious to see exactly what he's going to be up to this game. He's on the Vietnamese as well. So going to be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to it. He's got that elephant underneath his town center, the mYinsanity player. But it's an already an aggressive opening now for Kaio All Fallen. So we see that just a couple of the units getting picked off there. Looked like I'm not even sure what unit that was.
I think it was a Spearman and Archer. This map is very, very important to have very good fights at the beginning. Losing the first couple of Archers can snowball the entire game because you get set back and the map is very open, so you have all your resources wide open. This can snowball out of control real fast. I do appreciate how Project Belgium is taking the elephant, by the way. Usually on Empire Wars you don't start with these aggressive huntables because you would start with them on random map games, but Empire Wars basically assumes that we skip Dark Age, and you would be using that in Dark Age. So on maps where you have 2 of these aggressive huntables, you just remove the 2 as if there was no Dark Age. But in this map, you would start with 3 huntables, so you remove 2 and you're left with 1, and that's a very, very nice source of food. It's a pretty fast source of food, and it also contains quite a bit of food, as we have a bit of a scuffle here in the middle.
Yeah, well, in addition to the scuffle that's happening, I mean, I've got something else I want to talk about it, but I guess we're going to have to talk about the scuffle here because it's quite a bit. Beautiful Archer micro now coming out from Sito. We can just see the way that he's making sure all of those arrows are connecting, getting up in the face. Going to be able to take out most of the archers there from Sorakuma, but going to be forced back to fall back by Cloud. Cloud doing an amazing job of just getting on top of these archers. He's going to have to try and remass. He's got 3 archery ranges up at the moment. You can see quick walling, trying to drop a tower down at the moment, and just got a little house in front just to protect it from any potential scouts that do try and get through, but it's not going to matter to those archers. Those archers are just going to bypass that and begin focus firing down the villagers. Villagers are hammering at the base of the tower, trying to get it up as quickly as they can. It doesn't look like it's going to be able to go up. A couple of villagers going to be going down once again for mYinsanity. It's not the first time in the series that they lose villagers early, and I suspect it won't be the last because Kaio or Fallen are an incredibly aggressive team. And once again, even though they've subbed out that player, they are still keeping that same strategy. Nice early aggression, but we can see this mass is beginning to build for the Red Archers. The Red Archers are starting to look really good. Vietnamese archers are notorious for their Vietnamese voice lines, and I tell you what, there's going to be no shortage of voice lines in his military because it is absolutely getting big.
Now, here's the interesting thing here, because one of the reasons why I pick Huns in the pocket here is that you have a faster working stable. So the reason why we're seeing Cloud overrunning the opponents with scouts is because he's using triple stables in Feudal Age with Hunnic stables. That's a brutal production of cavalry. On the other hand, Project Belgium is going into Castle Age, and only a couple of knights are enough to clean this one up. So Cloud needs to use this window until Project Belgium gets to Castle Age here.
I love the use of houses as defensive walls as well. Normally you see this just to help out with villagers, but he's using it to help out with his army as well. Got a nice little funnel going here. A couple of spears coming out to try and push back these scouts as well. The bows are falling back towards the town center. Going to be trying to provide a little bit more fire from that as well, but now the villagers are having to fall back in. And it looks like he's going to be able to hold on for dear life, and his ally is going to be able to get up safely into that third age. He's only got another 10 seconds before he gets up there. And as soon as he does, it's going to be triple stable knights, and it's going to be able to take it out. But he's pushing out a little bit too far. I'm a bit concerned about this, because obviously he's only got the single scout that's out right now. But just the way that he pushes out, it makes me a little bit concerned. Those scouts, I guess they're all relatively low HP, so it's not going to be a particularly difficult problem for him to solve. But Sito now in a bit of a good spot on the front line. He's lost a couple villagers. They're down at the moment, 11 villagers compared to their opponents. But obviously having the third age and being safely up in it is definitely going to help out. We take a look over at their opponents, Kaio or Fallen. We can see that Sorakuma does have that age up in queue. Another 2 minutes, though, until that age up does happen. So there is going to be this nice little window. You did mention there was a window for the Taiwanese team, and now I guess there's a little bit of a window for mYinsanity, on the other hand, to potentially find that night opening.
Exactly. They actually sacrificed a couple of villagers from Sito here just so that Project Belgium can get to Castle Age faster, because Berbers, they do get a massive discount on their knights, so this is what you want to count on. That's why they're picking it here. On the other hand, Sito lost a lot of villagers for Project Belgium to get up, so now they have to capitalize on this one. And what Cloud is doing is the appropriate thing to do. Just stretch out the attention of Project Belgium and force those knights to chase until he gets up to Castle Age himself.
One of the things to note about this map, so obviously there's no shortage of food on this map. Obviously, you start with, technically you would start with the 3 aggressive animals, but on this map, because it's Empire Wars, there's only 1. There's a huge amount of food that's in the water here.
Exactly. And the distance to travel between the docks is very, very big. So you see that it takes forever for these fire galleys to get to the opponent. Oftentimes, players don't even bother attacking on the water, as that is one of the reasons why the food eco is so good for Cloud over here, and so it is for Project Belgium. There is still some scouts running around here for Cloud, so he could even get the light cavalry upgrade at this point, because he has so much of them, or so many of them, that he could use it as a very efficient trading unit, especially in the base of Sito.
Yeah, it's one of those things that there's definitely a bit of a, what's the word, a bit of a double-edged sword if he invests too heavily into it. He's only got another 35 seconds before he heads up into that third age, so not too long until he's up in there. But we take a look at the numbers beginning to build up for mYinsanity at the moment. He's got 11 knights out now, or 10 rather, now that that one's gone down. 9 now that one's gone down, but both Sito as well as Project Belgium are now in the third age. So it's, I guess we now see both players from Kiowa Fallen also hitting up to the third age as well. So pretty well timed. Everyone's up now. But I guess the question is, who's really got the advantage at this point? Because when it comes to the economic advantage, it's quite even. When it comes to the military, the Taiwanese team's looking a little bit stronger.
That's gonna be an interesting thing to consider, because the thing is that Huns and Berbers will be pretty much an even match here when it comes to cavalry production. Though now it looks like Project Belgium lost his fishing eco. The problem that you're gonna be facing when you have Aztecs is that you don't have Thumbring, which makes your archers fire faster and more accurately. This is a pretty crucial upgrade for archers. Aztecs produce archers faster, so the whole concept of the Taiwanese team was that they want to sort of just overrun their opponent in Feudal Age with units. But Vietnamese, they will get Thumbring, and they also have more HP on their archers as their civilization bonus. So, in terms of archer civs, Vietnamese are light years ahead when it comes to archer play. And, well, as things stand, economies will remain pretty close. Project Belgium needs to get +2 defense, though, because otherwise those knights will just melt to crossbows like butter.
When it comes to fishing economy, we can see very clearly now that Project Belgium has unfortunately lost his. How much does the land food economy stack up to the water food economy? Because typically in age games, we do see that the water economy can be quite strong. Is it the same in AoE 2 when it comes to gather rates, especially towards the late game?
I would say in AoE 2, fishing is probably an early game thing. It's definitely going to help in late game, but the thing is that as you go further and further away from your dock, it's going to be more and more inefficient. So at the end of the day, the most common use of fishing economy is sort of to boost your early game economy and fuel a free TC boom behind this one, and then you can add farming eco. Farming ecos are going to be a lot more consistent. So fishing is definitely helpful, and now that Cloud has completely untouched fishing, he's going to be very happy to have that. And it's definitely going to help him. But obviously,
Project Belgium got enough out of it? Like, to me, it looks like he's been able to establish those farms around his TC. He's looking pretty good now. But speaking of looking good, Cloud looking to get a bit of a raid in right now, but definitely the mYinsanity team not missing a beat, following it all the way through. There's no walls up here across it, so it means that the Knights are going to have no real trouble when it comes to it. A Mangonel shot going in. Oh, it's a close one, but not attacking ground, and that's a huge shot right there. Mangonel taking out a whole bunch of health off those crossbows, going to make these trades a lot easier when it comes to attack moving. Once that inevitable fight does happen, but we can see more Mangonels going to be coming out. Sorakuma deciding to get one of his own in as well.
Oh my goodness.
Now we've got some Knights that are trapped in the corner. They say nobody puts baby in the corner.
That has to be rewind.
We have to. What has happened here?
Look at that for Project Belgium. House here, house here, and here come the gates. This is an enormous trap here.
Oh my lord, it's beautiful. This is next level, and this is really what separates, you know, the great players from the best players right here, is the quick wall like this, the foresight that you've got to have to think about this. You knew a minute ago, if my opponent comes in and raids me, I'm going to quick wall his ass, and that's exactly what happened, Lidakor. Oh my god, wasn't that beautiful?
It was. It was a big investment for Project Belgium, but he won't get housed anytime soon with the amount of houses he just built over here. Behind this one, looks like we are gonna have the Taiwanese team pushing forward. There is that all-important Thumbring that comes in for Sito, and that's where his crossbows will start to become way better than Sorakuma's ones.
So, Lidakor, tell me, for all the Age of Empires 3 players that are watching right now, for the first time, and they're unfamiliar with Thumbring, what does Thumbring do?
It does two things. Number one, it makes your archers fire faster. That's the priority. But it also makes them fire more accurately. So there's 2 upgrades for the crossbows that give you the accuracy. Ballistics is the priority. That's something that we already have for Sito, because that basically means that they can hit moving units. But it's not 100% accuracy still. But if you get Thumbering, that's going to give you 100% accuracy, so all the projectiles will hit. So faster firing and more accurate. And that's why Thumbering is so important, especially for cavalry archers. So cavalry archers have a lower base accuracy, so for cav archers, Thumbering is even more so important.
Yeah, but they have a much higher base coolness level because they're cavalry. And we all know cavalry is the best type of unit class that there is. And speaking of cavalry, up towards the north, we've got a little bit of the 2 best units fighting out amongst each other, the knight-on-knight action. And you can just see the difference right now in those knight masses. The Taiwanese team losing out all of those knights in the base of mYinsanity in that perfect trap has resulted in him losing a significant amount of knights, and now it carries over into this point in the mid-game. We're at 22-minute mark, and the knight difference is alarming. We've got 28 knights versus 18 knights, and that is a significant difference, because if those 2 units stack up in a team fight, you know, it starts off 28 and 18, but by the end of it, it's probably something like, 16 knights remaining for mYinsanity and 0 knights remaining for the Taiwanese team.
Yeah, Sito is getting into a tough spot here because he's losing his archer ranges, meaning that he's gonna struggle with production. Plus, he's also 1 town center as opposed to Sorakuma, so Kaiwa Fallen taking over economically, and Sito has to be very careful here on those narrow choke points with his crossbows.
Yeah, this is something that we're going to have to watch very intently. I love the way the mangonels move in. Here it comes. There's the shot going off. Oh, he's got to be so careful with that. A couple of crossbows going down, but managing to survive both those 2 shots. And he's playing with fire here. He's playing with fire. The mangonel looking, posturing, takes a shot off, and he's very, very careful, making sure to fall back in time away from that shot that comes in. But he moves forward. He spots the mangonel getting that shot off on his building, and he knows that it's safe for him to move in. He's got to be careful, though. Mangonel getting that shot off, and it looks like he's taken out only a handful, but probably a plenty amount of damage that did go down on those crossbows. And Mangonel just popping out now for Sito, but going down immediately. So pretty unfortunate timing there to that Mangonel of his opponent. So Sorakuma definitely getting off some pretty decent shots here, but nothing too crazy, nothing too hype just yet. But we are going to keep watch. Look at the way that it moves forward. They're just trying their best to get those shots off, and there really is so much timing. And look at the significant mass of knights that are beginning to build up now for the Berber player. Just absolutely huge.
This is
what they're waiting for. Camels mixed in there as well.
Because both players from Cloud's team are imping. But you only have 22 knights, so you just invested a bunch of resources into Imperial Age if you are green. And Project Belgium has invested that into knights, so mYinsanity will have to take 1 fight over here in the next 1.5 minutes. But that fight they can definitely win because they have Thumbring. It's relatively even crossbow numbers, slightly better for Sorakuma, but the knight numbers are decisively in the favor of Project Belgium and Sito.
This knight mass is absolutely huge. He's got 48 knights. His opponent's only got 55 crossbows at this point. He's got more knights than crossbows almost at this point. And the knights are just beginning to just whittle away at the opponent, just laying waste. He said, you know what? We're just going to A-move. It looks like a little bit of Protoss out of StarCraft right here. He just says, you know what? We'll just move everything over to the enemy's base and stick it on attack move. Knights continuing to whack away. Buildings getting deleted as they're moving and trying to retreat away from those knights. Slowly, the knights are getting picked down to 45 knights.
Oh, that's a beautiful surround, though.
A really nice surround here. Trying his best to get into it, but I tell you what, I'm just waiting for a Mangonel to pop out. There's the Mangonel shot onto the back line. Takes out a huge amount of crossbows right there. So, incredible foresight right there from Sorakuma to know that that was going to happen, that push was going to come in, that the Mangonel timing was going to be big, and indeed it was. But now we actually see that the knight numbers are beginning to switch. We've got 30 knights up against 21 knights. The turnaround is happening. The Taiwanese team is turning this game around. More knights are coming out. We've got 38 crossbows up against 26 crossbows at the moment. So the crossbow numbers still a little bit crazy, but the knight numbers have evened out. Somehow they're holding on for dear life at this point. They're defending with everything they've got. And I tell you what, that Mangonel shot almost single-handedly brought them back into this game. Insane stuff.
Absolutely. They were about to lose the army that they are trying to upgrade right now, and that Mangonel shot pretty much saved a lot of crossbows here. because you want to upgrade those crossbows to arbalests right now, and that swung the battle in their favor enough to just buy enough time for Cavalier, +4 defense, and now we have 2 Imperial Age player against no one from mYinsanity. Army numbers are still close, but the army quality is gonna be light years ahead for Sorakuma and Cloud.
Is this potentially GG? I feel like at this point it's going to be very difficult for them. We do see that one mYinsanity player is going up another 10 seconds until he's up. But, I mean, when we consider the fact that there's 18, 19 now fully upgraded, well, not fully upgraded, but some pretty decent cavalry units out here on the map, it's going to be really difficult for them to try and pull back into this.
And we're going to have the same issue as before for mYinsanity. No Paladin for Berbers, but there is Paladin for Huns if they want to push it with that. But the bigger thing is that Sito is nowhere close to Imperial Age, which means that they currently don't have answer to Arbalests.
I tell you what, I'm absolutely just overwhelmed at how crazy this game has been. We've had some absolute crackers of games this evening, but this one is definitely moving towards probably the top of the castle at this point, because that was an absolutely insane exchange that just happened. I can't believe the turnaround that's happened here. I thought this was GG, but look, I'm just feeling relieved that I haven't threatened to eat any more shoes, because, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, like, just take a look at the Taiwanese team. They're doing well. They've subbed out this player. I feel like GG could be called at any point right now, just because of how much they're in their base. They're completely destroying this mass. We take a look at the unit counts. 41 ARBs, or is that ARBs? Yeah, 41 ARB, 42 ARBs, and 22. And there's a good game getting called right there. It's just a significantly larger mass of units in the base, forcing opponents to be idled, and obviously down in age as well isn't going to help. So, yeah, it's not something that I expected. Obviously, Sito impressive in the first game, but the Taiwanese team subbing out and getting Cloud in, definitely the right decision here.
Exactly. One thing that was really key is that they focused a lot on feudal age pressure, yet their castle age wasn't that much late. Usually that's the problem that you're facing. You focus a lot on feudal age pressure, you get delayed to castle age and then get overrun by knights, but that didn't really happen. And as you said, in the end, it was a matter of being able to retain their army numbers despite being heavily outnumbered in late castle. They gambled on going into Imperial, but they were able to preserve their numbers. Project Watchmen and Sito did what they had to. They had to take that fight before the units are upgraded. But that amazing Mangonel shot obviously sealed the deal. Plus the fact that Sito was set back at the beginning, lost a bunch of wills, so he wasn't really able to expand because of that. So he was still 1 TC, he didn't really have a second town center. So his economy was never really great. Added to the fact that you have faster producing stables for Huns, faster producing archery ranges for Sorakuma, and you have a very, very nice chance for the Taiwanese team to overrun the opponent.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we had. So incredibly impressive stuff out of them. Really great use of that Imperial timing as well. That was just right on. I think mYinsanity sensed that something was coming, and that was exactly why they pushed, why they committed. But just, yeah, impressive stuff.
You can tell in many ways that Imperial Age was probably part of the plan, because Cloud had very little knights, and that may have been seen, or you can see the change in the score. So whenever you click up to the next stage, you spend a bunch of resources on that, and those resources are pretty much, like those resources spent or subtracted from your score. Not directly, but in certain proportions. So when you see someone's score dropping massively, there is an indication that he's going up to the next stage. He's gonna get his score back for the resources invested when he reaches the next stage. But when you see a sudden score drop, that's an indicator that the opponent might be going up to the next stage. And with that, we have an even score line over here. That means that you will have the option to potentially see Canberra over here once again. Canberra.
I'm rubbing my hands together. I'm excited.
Canberra or Golden Pit will be the home maps of mYinsanity over here, and we're going to Canberra. So,
I'm getting excited. I'm getting
for
excited. Oh my lord! So for anybody who's just tuning in and unfamiliar, Canberra is my hometown. It's where I was born. It's the capital of Australia, and it is represented very accurately in this Age of Empires 2 map. So for anybody unfamiliar with Canberra, there is a very large fish in the center of Canberra, and it's worth 30,000 food. It is that's pretty accurate, I would say.
So indeed, welcome to Canberra in here. And you talk about how small this map is, because that's the big thing. You have a bunch of space here. This would be the normal 2v2 map size, but it's much smaller than that. The players almost have their bases touching each other over here. Luckily, these are teammates and not enemies. Otherwise, we could have some massive fighting right at the beginning.
And speaking of massive fighting, it looks like a couple scouts saying, "Get out of my base." No, you get out of my base. So we've got over on the eastern side of the map, we've got Demon Sheep, who's been subbed back in. He's going to be spawning in on the northeast side, going to be playing the Byzantines. We've got Cloud just spawning below him, playing the Spanish. Over on the left-hand side of the map, over on the west, we've got Project Belgium playing the Malians and Sito playing the Koreans. So it's going to be left against right. It does get a little bit confusing watching this map. So one of the things to note, we've got 4 canals that run into each individual player's base. So you can do crazy little drops, or you can just, I guess, set up a dock and start fishing if that's your thing.
Yeah, it looks like no one else is doing that. So Demon Sheep is going to have a happy fishing here. Definitely helping Byzantines that do not otherwise have an economical bonus. So that helps quite a bit at the beginning. We have 2 civilizations that are very good with their unique unit play, both Spanish with conquistadors and Koreans with war wagons. This should slightly favor Koreans, but it looks like Sito is going to open archers at the beginning. Everybody else looks like double archer opening, actually. It's a little bit unconventional. Will be a bit of a surprise for Demon Sheep and Cloud, although they already start rolling themselves with a second layer.
I've got a question for you, Lidicor. So when I was watching Hera, he said you want a villager called Bob or Sandy, depending on whether it's a man or a woman, and that's going to be your villager that builds all your houses for the rest of the game. My question to you, what are we going to call this fish that's in the middle of Canberra? Because I've got a feeling that Demon Sheep is going to be fishing on this for the rest of the game, and we're probably going to need to name it. So what do we name it?
Well, it's your hometown, so you get the honor of naming it.
I think we call it Tony.
Tony? Just like tuna?
Tony the tuna. Even though he's a perch. Maybe we could call him Percy. Percy the perch. But anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited. It's great to be casting the debut cast, getting to cast Canberra, not only once, but twice. But yes, now we see some interesting walls that are going up here. These are little just preemptive walls. Obviously, when you're pushing with archers, got to be extra careful with your villagers here, making sure that they don't get in too close a range to the archers. So it's good to see that Cloud's sort of been a bit preemptive with that. I'm curious what his strategy is going to be behind this. Obviously, we can see he's going up to the 3rd age, so going to be playing a little bit more heavy, orientated towards the macro. Every player is currently going up. So just really a question about who got up first, and Cloud's going to be leading the way. So what's your suspicion on what he's going to be doing once he reaches the 3rd age?
Cloud wants to go for a castle here. He's mining stone like there is no tomorrow. And he had the stone wall here. That's a good decision, I believe. Palisade walls can be broken through by archers, not houses or stone walls. So this is going to hold here pretty much forever against archers. And he's gonna get a castle up. Castle spot is interesting because probably, like, the best spot would be here, but that's no longer an option, so I guess it has to be here. And on the other side, it looks like Sito is continuing with double ranges, no castle on the horizon just yet for him. Here come the archers, trying to just deny that fishing option over here. But you gotta be careful, because if you walk on those causeways, you could get demoed very easily. And looks
playing with fire, quite literally.
Looks like Sito is coming in here for a dock, and with that timing for Koreans, that may be a couple of turtle ships to secure the pond.
And we do see that castle now getting dropped, as you mentioned. Looks like he's gone for a little bit more of a curious spot, sort of blocking himself in with that castle. It's going to be definitely a good spot. We see more players now reaching the castle age, so we've got 3, and the 4th one is about to come up in about 5 seconds. Crossbows beginning to move out going to be pressuring with those archers and doing their best just to fire off at the enemy ships. But the villager just working away, now going to be getting up that dock. The boat or the... that's a galley right there, isn't that, Liticor? Yeah. I just want to make sure before I call it something, the galley not getting in there quickly enough. But now the push beginning to happen. And once again, remember, this is left versus right. So we've got double archers in here, or double crossbows. They're just absolutely wreaking havoc when you take a look at how much damage they're doing just straight through that gate. Not even really a challenge. Town center getting dropped down over here towards the right of the screen. But the question is this going to get up? I've got a suspicion
very close. And this is a big problem for Cloud. He placed his castle on the left, but all his gold is on the right. And conquistadors are pretty bad when it comes to fighting massed archers. So these conks won't stop this. This is a time for mangonel for Cloud, but for the time being, he's going to be off from gold.
You know what else is pretty bad? That spot on the castle. I'm not a fan of that at all. I feel like that's really not protecting a lot. If it had been up where you initially suggested, I feel like he would have been able to apply a lot more pressure. Speaking of applying on pressure, there just seems to be a lot of crossbows going off. A total ship now in the center, going to be looking to potentially contest Percy the Perch. Percy the Perch only got a 29,400 food left on him, so got to get in while it's hot. And fishing boats all going to be pretty much done with here in the center pond, as well as the crossbows that go the way that they shouldn't. And now we see the cavalry mass beginning to build. I say cavalry mass, but this is the Conquistador mass. So tell me a little about the Conquistador. That's a unique unit for the Spanish. How does it work?
It's basically like a beastly cav archer. So I think it's just a little slower moving. It doesn't benefit from the archer upgrades either, or at least not the attack upgrades, but it has a massive damage output. So it's actually very good when it comes to just diving in, sniping. For example, it's great for mangonel snipes. It's great for villager snipes. 3 of them can kill a villager one shot, pretty much. Especially if they hit, because the big question with gunpowder units is their accuracy, which is much lower than standard archers. They are actually very good when it comes to dealing with melee units as well, especially once you can mass them. But they die pretty easily to mass range units, as you see over here.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing quite well just to pick them off. Just almost one-shotting those conquistadors as they come into range, and now having to head away. But look at that turtle ship. That turtle ship beaching itself up on land right now. I thought the turtle ship was a ship, but it seems to be a little bit of an amphibious vehicle right here as it gets nice and close to these enemy units, just trying to prevent them from getting in a little bit too far. But the now got some skirmishes beginning to come out for Demon Sheep, and I like the little micro that he's doing right there. He's microing his turtle ship like he'd micro his archers, and that impresses me.
Yeah. Speaking of micro, let's talk a little bit about macro, because behind this one, Sito is on 3 TC 70 villagers, by far the best in the game, and Project Belgium is also ahead compared to his opponents. The macro of these two players is probably better than the macro of Demon Sheep and Cloud, and we saw that Cloud and Demon Sheep, or Cloud and Sorakuma, can be very, very good on open maps because they're very aggressive, but this is a slower paced, macro orientated map, as the monk is coming in to deal with the turtle ship, but that's not gonna happen.
Speaking of monk coming in to deal with the turtle ship, monks can convert ships?
Yes, they can.
Oh my god! Okay, this is getting ridiculous. These monks are amazing. Okay, this is really cool. Turtle ship now beginning to move in and punish this Mangonel. Mangonel gonna be going down. Mangonel just just sending off one little Hail Mary before he goes down. Knew he was giving it up, so he said, you know what, we'll fire off one last shot. Turtle ship now moving back as well. And I love the way that the turtle ships are being used here in the center, sort of as a pseudo siege unit. Very tanky, very annoying and frustrating to deal with, but at the same time, very mobile, very quick. So a turtle ship now going down, but the second turtle ship does remain. Second Mangonel shot coming in. Oh, it was very close, but looks to miss the mark. And Mangonel's looking to trade with each other. Castle going to be getting dropped down here.
That's a conversion. That's a converted turtle ship now.
Wow, that's a turtle ship by the Byzantine player. So
exactly.
It's not every day you see that.
He's gonna come in and get some repairs in. The best way to deal with turtle ships is monks, because turtle ships are kind of slow, they don't really have a great range, and they're very valuable units, and monks are always good dealing with units that are just valuable. As it looks like we'll have a castle for Sito in the middle, and also Project Belgium with a forward castle here, although this castle For Sito may not just yet go up. There's the Korean towers.
So do you need to get any upgrade to convert these turtle ships, or is this just something you can do out of the box?
You can do it out of the box. And there is 2 turtle
there they
ships. Go.
2 free turtle ships, thank you.
Exactly. There's also Demo coming in here. Oh boy.
Oh.
That was close. That was awfully close. And now there's 3 turtle ships here. That castle foundation is very weak. And it looks like Sido managed to delete it just in time.
Yeah, it's great to see. So that stone is returned back to his inventory. A lot of the Age of Empires 3 players would not be used to that mechanic. So in Age of Empires 3, the way that it works is if your opponent takes out your barracks as you're building it, you'll simply just be refunded the remaining wood that you were yet to hammer into that building. Obviously, in Age of Empires 2, that is not the case. You will lose absolutely all of it if you do not cancel your building.
Well, you don't lose the entirety of it. You just, wait, yeah, you lose the entirety of it. What am I talking about? You only get refunded if you delete, and you only get refunded certain portions. So, if you build the building to 25% completion, you get refunded 75% if you delete it yourself.
Right.
So, looks like Castle's coming in here for Sito, and they are going into Imperial. Especially Project Belgium's gonna be the first player to imp, and that's pretty important because he's going to have the trebuchets out first to deal with this castle. Also getting a siege workshop up, so bombard cannons could be an option. And overall, I'm just more impressed about the army of Project Belgium and Sito right now.
I'm impressed about the turtle ships. The turtle-on-turtle action, despite there being, no ability to construct turtles. Where there is a will, there is a way. Where there's a turtle, there is a
monk.
A monk? Yeah. I guess that works. But now we've got another castle getting dropped up on the front. But once again, it's going to come down to, obviously, Imperials are happening right now. So we're going to be seeing a lot more trebs coming out. Going to be able to deal with these castles relatively easily. And so I guess the question remains, is this castle going to be particularly relevant?
Hard to say. Demonship is definitely going to be able to protect his own base with that. But the thing is that Demonship is not the main target right now. Cloud will be the main target here, and I kind of feel like he could easily find himself being overrun. Malians are missing the Bracer upgrade for our Blasters, so they're not fully upgraded. But still, it's at least a mass of units, and it's not like Cloud has a whole lot of units right now. He's going to start making a switch to Knights, but he's heavily housed, so it's gonna take some time. And they're also running out of space here.
Yeah, a little bit of a wall delete action going on right now. Opening up that base. It's a little bit dangerous to do, but we do see Cloud as well as Sito coming up to the Imperial Age at the exact same time. Turtle ships beginning to move forward and take out this dock. Doesn't look too long for this world. But speaking of long for this world, we've now got some trebs down here at the south. Going to begin working on that castle as well. And we potentially will see some treb-on-treb action down here to the south. Do we have any trebs in queue at the moment for the Taiwanese team? It looks like we've got one in queue at the moment. So potentially going to be looking to counter treb. But now the sort of one of the things that you mentioned earlier in the game that was played on Canberra is that we don't really know exactly the way that this map is played. We don't really know the meta for this map. But it definitely seems to be a little bit more siege orientated. Obviously, the last game that played, there was a huge emphasis on having cavalry. In this game, though, it's been a lot more on crossbows, a lot more on having those early archers out. A little bit of a tussle over the middle pond, but then sort of getting up to that Imperial Age and getting out that all-important siege.
Exactly. The thing that swings the battle in Project Belgium's favor right now is that he's got bombard cannons, which can just take down those trebs very easily with good micro. But Cloud just needs to repair for now. He's up against 2 trebs, actually 3 trebs now. He will need to unpop those cavaliers soon. The magical number is 3 trebs, because for every trebuchet that's shooting at the castle, you need about 7 villagers to repair it. So 3 trebs is like 21 wills. That's almost impossible to pull that many. 14 might be doable for 2 trebs, not really for 3. So 3 trebs is usually the magical number to take down a castle at a rather reasonable pace.
And obviously, as you're healing up that castle, it's going to be costing you stone as well to heal that. So it's like,
exactly.
I can't imagine how much is that going to be per second, the stone that you're going to be spending if you had 21 villagers healing up that castle. It would just be ridiculous. But speaking of ridiculous, a little bit of a cavalry charge coming out now. Going to be a fair amount of cavaliers. Are these cavaliers? I can't tell the difference between paladins and cavaliers, but these are definitely cavaliers. Going to be on top of these archer units and having a bit of a difficult job as they move towards the south. Going to be trying to get themselves up against that tree line, minimize the amount of space that they've got, but at the same time, they're pushing through, going to be able to take down those trebs. So even though he loses the castle, the Cavaliers are going to be able to come through, seal the deal, and potentially look at getting a counter push down. There are castles up for him, going to be able to defend down here towards the south. Project Belgium will, but you know, a relatively good job at sort of evening this out. Do you think that there's a particular advantage for either side at this point, Lidicor?
It's hard to say, because Project Belgium just lost his entire army, and he needs to make a tech switch into camels. That's gonna be a very, very long tech switch. He doesn't particularly have amazing economy, and also the units that he's switching into are very gold heavy when the map is starting to run dry on gold. There is still a window for them, but that's something that could cause long-term issues, especially if Cloud just goes Habedier against that. On the other side, though, I feel like Sito is sort of clapping Demon Sheep over here, and two separate 1v1s actually favored mYinsanity team because they're individually better.
Yeah, that's definitely the way it feels, and something that we saw in one of the earlier games on, I can't remember the name of the map, the ring one, where it was sort of those two 1v1s that happened.
Yeah, Rock Slide.
Yeah, Rock Slide, that's the one. So it definitely feels like that's starting to happen, and we can see now at the north of the map just how much damage these ships are beginning to do. They're able to support the Trebs, so the Trebs are now moving in to the north of the map, and they're getting supported by those ships. And now we've got some war wagons beginning to build.
Exactly. This is one of those situations where Cloud might be relatively close to destroying Project Belgium here, but Sito is also very close to destroying Demon Sheep, and Sito is actually facing less resistance. It's probably going to be faster destroying Demon Sheep than Cloud is destroying Project Belgium, especially with heavy camels already out.
It's a curious decision that they've sort of made, that, and I like the fact that you point that out, that very specifically. You know, it's going to be very easy for Sito to walk over the top of Demon Sheep up here. So, you know, it's you best get to work now and do that. And in the meantime, it looks like, as you mentioned, Cloud is going to be trying to go over the top of Project Belgium, but it's not really, it's more of a race really at this time, who's going to be more effective. Now we've got some skirms out, going to be trying to deal with these war wagons, doing a pretty effective job as well, firing off at them, but I don't think it's really going to matter when you just consider how many Trebs are in this base just killing the enemy dudes. It's just villagers actually out getting in on the action, but by the same token, we can just see that the turtle ships are doing their best to try and defend those Trebs, but not having a whole lot of luck. All of the Trebs going down, with the exception of a single Treb that remains on the south side of the map. However, we've got 3 trebuchets that still remain up for Cloud. So significant mass beginning to build down here towards the south. Look at those war wagons as well, Ludicor.
Exactly. Demon Sheep's defense here was actually very, very decent, but he has lost so many villagers. He's down to 74, and they're running out of space, and more importantly, gold. This map doesn't have a lot of gold, and while on most maps you could add trade, that's not the case over here. The distance to travel between markets is so small that trade would be awfully inefficient. It's more about the map control for gold, and that's sort of a kamikaze strike here with the cavalry running into the camels.
Yeah, it's a bit of a curious decision or position, but I guess one of the other things to note is that in addition to it being a particularly small map, that you've got an absolutely huge canal that you're going to have to walk around as well. And I'm not sure exactly how the mechanics work in this game when it comes to trade, but I suspect you don't get extra points for walking far. You only get extra points for distance between the markets, and as a result, it's going to mean your caravans are going to take extra long to walk not so far, and as a result, it's just going to be very inefficient. I mean, at the end of the day, it might be the only way that you can gather gold, so maybe there is a will to do it, but it just doesn't seem that rewarding. Yeah,
and Demon Sheep and Cloud are trying to do that, but obviously the gold income won't be amazing, and Sito and Project Belgium have 2 relics each, so that gives them a nice trickle of gold. As We also have a bunch of elite war wagons here for Sito. Those retain their values so well because they are insanely hard to kill.
Yeah, take a look at the amount of damage that they're just putting out here at the moment. They're looking really, really good. There's a huge mass that's beginning to build for them as well. Is that 44?
That's 44.
War wagons? That is a huge amount of war wagons that are built up right now. That's
exactly.
That's almost a commanding lead at this point.
This is not an efficient trade. This is definitely not an efficient trade here because Byzantine skirmishers are very, very cheap. So being able to take down war wagons, which are gold units with them, is very useful. But I don't think that Taiwan can hold this out. We are talking about 88 army versus 22, 340 population versus 210 combined.
Yeah, it definitely looks to be a little bit concerning now, especially that military population. The fact that they're down to almost 20 compared to the 90 of their opponent. So I feel like at this point it's almost just a matter of time until Sito's able to carry this. He's doing a marvelous job of carrying this game and really carrying the series. And there we go. GG gets called, and we've got victory over for. I suspect they're the French players. I know Sito is French.
Yeah, Sito is French. Project Belgium, obviously, is Belgian.
Oh, really? Never would have guessed.
Yeah, and they have a third player as well, Daniel, who hasn't hit the field today. He is American, so not sure if Daniel's going to play today. There's a chance that Sito and Project Belgium will just play this entire set. It depends on the individual thoughts about the team. So sometimes some teams say, okay, we've been playing this one, and, you know, we are already sort of warmed up whatsoever, and maybe putting in a player that hasn't played the last 2 or 3 games might hurt. Some teams might say, hey, it's a thing that we are still comfortable with. It looks like Sito and Project Belgium are the main players for MYI in this set.
I would expect with Macro as strong as Sito's, he's probably going to be the main player in every game. I tell you what, he's impressive stuff. Let's take a look at the end game statistics here. We just see that KD looking incredibly strong for him on the Koreans. No conversions being shown in the post game. I'm assuming that doesn't include conversions on ships.
It does. Demon Ship has 4 over here. That's actually a conversion ratio. So Sito lost 4 units to conversions, Demon Ship got 4. I think all 4 of those were turtle ships.
I see.
But this is a brutal count. Massive KD advantage, both for Project Belgium and Sito. Buildings destroyed as well. Just tells you that Sito was just leveling the base of his opponent.
Yeah, he was having a lot of fun up there.
Exactly. Economies. Actually, Cloud's eco was pretty strong over here, but obviously they didn't really have the army at any time in the game to be impactful. So it seemed like mYinsanity was a little bit more prepared for this map because they had a pretty well thought over process. They didn't go for the fish early. They just wanted to make sure the opponent doesn't have it, and then played for the late game, but their macro was better, so their economy actually was way better starting Imperial Age. Just helped snowball this game so much here at the beginning.
Yeah, it was very well played by them. I think they played it quite impeccably. Very methodical.
And that leaves us with the other home map of Kyle Fallen, which is Forest Pond. It is a closed map, and it's a much more slower placed map over here. So there is some time for Kyle Fallen to calm down, but this might backfire. Because we have seen how good they can be when they can play aggressive. But this is everything but an aggressive map. It has some crazy gimmicks to it as we jump into the next game over here. Curious to see the teams. Looks like mYinsanity will remain with the same composition. And we will have, once again, a change for Kyle Fallen. Sorakuma is back, Cloud is out. Welcome to Forest Pond. Demon Ship coming in as Italians on the right side in green, Sorakuma as Blue Saracens on the north. Down south is Project Belgium for mYinsanity in yellow as Persians, and Sito is gonna play Portuguese over here in red. All of these civilizations are either water civ or hybrid map civs, and now you see why this map has so much gimmick. Because technically you are walled. but the back of your base is actually wide open by a pretty massive pond over here. So, a lot more space to expand on the outside, but you're gonna have to split your attention between the outside and the inside.
It is an absolutely awesome map. I love the look of this map. It's very sneaky. It's water is not something that you can ignore on this map. That is for sure. So I would expect to see every single player getting out some early docks here. One of the things to note is that it doesn't look like Sora Kuma has actually gone for that early dock. Going to be playing the Saracens. So do we see, is that extra archery rangers getting dropped down towards the north? A second one going to be going up as well. So plenty of archery rangers going to be happening, and maybe some early pressure from the Taiwanese team. It wouldn't be surprising. Let's say that much.
Well, the good news is that archers for Saracens get through walls pretty easily because they have the building attack bonus. And the other bonus for Saracens is that their market have much better prices. So they can just sell their stone a lot more efficiently. Some call it market abuse because it actually is close to that. And that just allows Saracens to get up to Castle Age really fast here, get a couple of archers out, and start pressuring on land early. He's gonna be up against Sito, who is mining stone, so he will go for defensive castle eventually. For now, just plays water.
And speaking of playing defensively, if we take a look down towards the south of the map, we actually see walls already beginning to go up for Demon Sheep. So perhaps their plan is already somewhat underway. And these are stone walls as well. So they are very intent on closing this off and keeping everybody from moving into that area. So I suspect we're going to potentially see a little bit of ring around the rosy potentially. Maybe Demon Sheep going to potentially hold on to the water. He's playing the Italians, try his hardest to hold on, but he's going to have a difficult time, I suspect, because he's got a lot of fishing or a lot of boats to deal with right now. A lot of fire ships in here, dealing out that damage, and just look at this early pressure. Demo ship coming out, going to be colliding, but really not a lot of impression that was placed there. Do we have more demo ships coming out at the moment in queue? I think it looks like we've got a couple more fire ships, so potentially going to be able to hold on. But Italians, probably one of the better, as far as I remember, the best Civ on water. Is that right, Lytical?
It's debatable, but Italians are definitely one of the better pure water civs, so top 3 in that regard. But we have to consider this is a hybrid map. There's a lot to talk about with them, as we have Sora Kuma coming in for a forward siege workshop talk about aggressive play. Sito, if he finds his way up to Castle Age and gets a defensive castle up, he's gonna be alright, but that's gonna take a long time for him. Oftentimes you stonewall the outside, because one of the strategies here is that if everybody focuses on water, you can just march up to the opponent's base and drop a castle in his face, and then he's got his back against the water here. So that's why you stonewall this out, to prevent a potential castle drop. It's not like Persians would do that anyways, most likely, but you never know.
Yeah, I like the way that they've thought about this and gone for it. Can you tell me a little bit more about with the meta for this map? So this map has been in the map pool, or at least your map pools, for quite some time. Is that right, Lytical?
Yeah, exactly, but this wasn't really played in 2v2 Empire Wars that much, and it was only exclusively played in tournaments, so we don't really have a massive sample size over here. The meta is pretty much non-figured out. For 1v or 2v2s in Empire Wars, it very much seems like the concept is that you have to apply some water pressure, but you can't overextend because land might be more important. Oh, this could be great from Sito. He's burning down that single tile of wall. There is a 1 tile gap that you can walk through here.
Oh my gosh.
And that means that you can technically walk into the opponent's base. That's a possibility. Here come the battering rams. Sito trying to get some defensive towers up here. But this is gonna be an absolutely painful hold for him.
Yeah, those battering rams doing a lot of damage right there. And look at those crossbows popping out from inside. Going to be doing their best to deal with the villagers that are slowly hitting down that battering ram. But the battering ram does go down. The crossbows are going to have to retreat now at this point. The battering ram on the back line just going to be slowly working at those palisades down towards the center of the map. We do see that there are more fights happening on water at the moment. Fire ship on fire action. And I tell you what, these fire ships are pretty darn good. Tell me a little bit about the matchup between fire ships and galleys, because they're your most common choices when it comes to military units on the water in the early game. How do they stack up against each other?
Well, the thing is that galleys scale a lot better in the long run because demo ships have a much harder time dealing with them. But when you have such a confined space and not enough space to fall back to, then fire galleys are probably better. Because galleys are just like cavalry archers. You have to hit and run, and you don't really have a lot of space over here to do that, as Sito's gonna have a couple of heated moments over here trying to defend against this one. Normally this would be a mangonel push, but guard towers actually destroy mangonels pretty easily. Not watchtowers, but guard towers, if you upgrade them, do. But guess what? Battering rams will just knock down these buildings really fast, and the crossbows will just be here to protect them from the villagers.
Yeah, it's curious that the villagers do so effectively against them. Look at them stabbing their way through it. So we take a look at the villager count at the moment. Still looks to be relatively even at this point. A little bit ahead for the defensive team at this point, but still quite close considering the pressure that they're sustaining on the water. We continue to see fights happening, fireship on fireship at this point, and both players or both teams looking to be in relatively decent positions. I don't think anyone's really pulled ahead at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to say because Sito is right now the punching bag. He is definitely the one that's getting pushed on water. Now there's a mangonel coming in to deal with those crossbows. And he's the one facing a lot of pressure over here. On the other side, though, Project Belgium is able to boom on 3 town centers. He's the only player with more than one. So Sito might just take the role of the punching bag and let Project Belgium boom and snowball the game in the long run.
I think you might 100% be right, and I guess I'm surprised that it's not the other way around, that they didn't switch, because normally it's Sito, the one that you see sort of doing all that booming and doing all that carrying. So a little bit of role reversal here. So curious to see if Sito's going to be able to hold on. But now we've got a bit more of a fight happening out on the ocean. Italians having to fall back because of those Persian fire ships, and a demo. Was that a demo popping out right there? Doing a lot of work. Looks like all of the ships are just so low on hit points at this point. It's definitely a difficult spot, and now doing their best. Oh, that demo was destructive as hell. Ooh, Lidicore.
That was beautiful. When you see the opponent coming in with the demo and you have your own, you kind of have to trade those. But when you can also catch a couple other ships in that blast, that's even better. I think the main reason why Project Belgium is the one doing the booming thing here, just to answer your question, is because it's not like they had a choice. Sorakuma was about to attack whoever is next to him, and that happened to be Sito, so Sito is the one taking this defensive role. But I like how Sorakuma is not switching target. Project Belgium has a couple of knights out, but they don't have any armor upgrades, so they melt to crossbows very easily.
Makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I like the way that he's thinking about this, doing a real ring of rosy, or ring around the rosy, and coming full circle here. Sorakuma going to be hitting down towards the south, and really both players now just ganging up on Project Belgium. They've said, you know what, Sito's had enough to deal with in this early game, so now we're going to take it to the Persian player. And that's exactly what happens. But now the Lancers, the Knights getting out on top of the crossbows and doing their best to just try and kite away. You mentioned that they didn't have any upgrades, so you can see just how easily they're taking out these Knights. Really no problem at all whatsoever. Battering ram has finally made its way down to the front gate of the base as well. We see more units streaming across the south of the map that are going to be making their way towards the base of Project Belgium, and a difficult spot for him because now he's getting the old 2v1, and that's something that you never want to be getting, Lidicore.
Exactly. And Sito had to do a long defense here, so he's set back a little bit. You see that he doesn't have any ships, he doesn't really have any combat units, and now Project Belgium has his back against the wall here. And I think what Demon Ship could try to do, considering that Sorakuma is pushing from the outside, Demon Ship is mining stone here. Sorakuma as well, although Sorakuma is probably just selling it to the Saracen market. Once they destroy these docks and shoreline buildings, you can actually drop a castle from the inside in the opponent's face, and you could just sandwich Project Belgium in between the two players.
Makes perfect sense. I want to clarify something, Lidicore. I know that in 4v4 games, you get to choose who your pocket player is. In 2v2 games, do you get to choose that as well?
Not really, but it doesn't even really matter, because you will always be adjacent to at least one enemy, so you see that it's always one of your sides is a teammate, the other side is an enemy, so there's very, very few maps where it actually matters. Cape of Storms was one of them. In Cape of Storms, it matters.
So on Cape of Storms, they would have been able to choose their positions?
Exactly.
Right, okay.
It's color-coded, so one of the players will have, I think it's always yellow being the pocket and red being the flank, or so.
Right. Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Looks like we have a castle coming up here for Project Budge on the right side, protecting that gold. And that's the only long-term gold mine that he's gonna have access to, because he's running out of gold inside his base, and his other secondary gold is gone. We have a defensive castle, though, from Sito, and I love this. This is actually cutting off Sorakuma's attack towards Project Belgium, and it very much seems like those mangonels might be able to clean up the crossbows. Project Belgium repairing his teammate's mangonel here.
Oh, very, very, very sweet of him as well. But I'm curious, there's a couple of blue dots down at the map. I do see a TC going up down here towards the south. Is that another building that we see right there that Sorakuma's trying to drop? So even though there's a castle that's gone down, is he trying to sneak a villager around to get this is it a siege workshop that he was planning to build?
He was planning to do that, but I think he lost the villager, probably on the way here. So that's not gonna happen. And we haven't mentioned that Demon Sheep is actually having a very massive fish boom here, 79 villagers. He also has a discount on aging up, so he's about to hit Imperial. Project Belgium has the best villager count in the game, but efficiency is not the best here, because he has to idle a lot of farms, bunch of villagers idle here as well. So, and after all, Demon Sheep might be in a slightly better position, because his eco is completely untouched.
You said Demon Sheep, and I thought you were saying Demo Ship. It's very, very close. Demon Sheep, Demo Ship, Mangonel shot coming out now. Just doing a little bit of damage on those warships, but not too much. And yeah, a curious thing, the fact that he's being idled right here. I noticed that there was a fire ship burning down a farm, and at the same time, well, now we've got bears. Oh, the bears. I knew it was... What's that? I'm trying to think of the quote from The Simpsons, but if I remember correctly, it might be a racist quote, so I might not say it. Oh, no, it's not racist. It's against immigrants. Can I say it, Lidical? All right, I'm going to say it. It's from Mo Sislak. He says... I can't remember what he says. He says something about the immigrants. It was the immigrants. I knew it was them. Even when they said it was the bears, I knew it was them. That was the quote.
Alright, now it looks like Demon Sheep is coming in here with a castle on the right side, and since he's beating Project Belgium to Imperial, he's just gonna trap this castle down very, very easily.
Castle in a pretty decent spot as well, but speaking of easy spot, these crossbows doing their best to try and get up nice and close to this catapult, or to this mangonel rather. Now they're going to have a bit of a difficult spot because they're up against a knight, but now the second mangonel going to be rolling in. Beautiful Doubt Castle going up, looking pretty decent up on that very slight hill. So tell me more about the hill advantage in this game. So I can see that castles are just placed on even the slightest of hill. That's going to give them an advantage, a range advantage over everything around them. Is that right? Or how does it work?
It doesn't give you range advantage. It gives you two things. If you're firing down hills, then you get extra damage against the units you're firing against down hills, and you also take less damage. So it works two ways. That's why castles are always built on hilltops, or at least ideally, because then if I'm having trebuchets over here and it's shooting at the castle, it's going to take that, you know, less damage because the castle is on a hill. Same thing with trying to place trebuchets on hills as well. You're always trying to fire down hills. As we will have, looks like this is a ram and pikeman push. Wait, no, it's condottieri, okay. That is a much better choice here. Somewhat uncommon, and I would say that for Demon Sheep, Genoese crossbows is probably a better option. But he doesn't really have the production for that, so he's gonna go condottieri, which is a unit that's designed to deal with gunpowder units, but really it's just what makes condottieri amazing is that you don't need to get a lot of upgrades for them to be very efficient. It's not like you have knights and you have to upgrade them to cavalier, paladin, whatsoever. You need to get the blacksmith upgrades, but you don't need to get any prerequisite upgrades for them. So it's very easy to add a couple of condottieri just for raiding purposes.
Yeah, and look at the movement speed on them as well. Just coming in now, they're like lightning the way that they move. They're just almost like pseudo cavalry in that way. They charge underneath that town center. Going to begin harassing now, but bit of damage that's going to be sustained right here. Project Belgium is now the target of the majority of the harassment here. A difficult spot for him because not only has he gone up to the Imperial age, but a lot of villagers getting chased away here, potentially idled as well. When we take a look at the villager count, we do see that mYinsanity are pulling ahead. They're ahead about by 25 villagers at the moment, but it's only a only chump change, really, when it comes to the late game. And I guess my question is there a particular team that is in an advantageous position here?
I think, yes, that's the Taiwanese team. Both of them are Imperial agent. They have a decisive army lead. Bombard cannons, Trebs already shelling this castle. Sito barely has any army right now. And Project Belgium has 3 knights. He's got 10 in queue. Knights will eventually beat Condottieri, but Project Belgium is about to lose this castle here, and the condos can just run inside his eco and just keep killing villagers. And it's not like Sito can help him whatsoever.
Yeah, you're 100% on the money with that one. One of the things to note is that was, if I remember correctly, that's his last safe gold down towards the south that's being guarded by that castle. He's got just how many villagers are over here on this gold. It looks like it's absolute craziness, but this gold isn't going to last forever. And we take a look back down towards the
tower.
south.
That's beautiful.
Wow. Is he getting them over the wall through
exactly.
that siege tower?
That's a big meme. It's a very, very situational unit, but siege tower actually allows you to drop off units over walls. You rarely see them in competitive Age of Empires, but when you do, it's majestic. He could he could try blasting his way through the walls, but this is actually an easier solution.
Yeah, this is very frustrating to deal with. What do you even do in this position? I feel like, you know, when I see that siege tower, I'm like, okay, it's starting to get away from me at this point, Lidicor.
I feel like for Project Belgium, he's fine. He's gonna have Persian heavy cavalry here with good upgrades. Those destroy Condottieri. And the thing is that Italians don't really have great pikemen. They don't have the halberdier upgrades, so they will be destroyed eventually by heavy cav. One thing that Demon Ship could play for is just massing pikemen and just starving Project Belgium out of gold, because these are very gold-heavy units and pikemen are not. But the best thing for Demon Ship would be Genoese crossbows, which is the Italian unique unit, because that's a crossbow that deals a lot of bonus damage versus cavalry.
I remember that from the Spirit of the Law video, where he was talking about unit counters, and he said there's nothing to indicate that the Genoese crossbowmen would do additional damage against cavalry. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of those out on the map. But one of the things to note is that the cavalry is definitely out in numbers today. A couple more Trebs going to be going down, and it's important that he tries to get those out as quickly as possible before those cavalry units just push back and overrun the entire base.
Yeah, but it might not matter, because Project Belgium is holding, but we discussed that before, that it's not like Sito had any army to hold with. He's trying to get to Arbalests, but he's just so much behind the army. He has 7 Arbs. His opponent has 22 Arbs, skirmishers, some Mamelukes joining the fun.
He's in a pretty good position.
Exactly. Like, at this point, Sorakuma is absolutely annihilating Sito. So all that Cloud needs to do is just try to hold this position and slow down the advance of Project Belgium. Potentially with multiple layer stone walls as well. He could also get a couple of...
It looks like he's doing that.
Yeah, he could also get a couple of cannon galleons, so he can start shelling these buildings over here. Because, yeah, obviously, Project Belgium can rebuild them, but that takes away attention, that takes away resources.
Definitely looks like, you know, the way that this game is going, we may be moving towards that deciding game, that potential game number 5. Because as you mentioned, Sito's not looking too healthy at all. We take a look at the scores right now. Sito is down. He's definitely carrying or being the dead weight in this game. So a difficult spot for him. He's got a couple castles up here, but it's not really going to matter too much, just simply because of the amount of siege that his opponent's got. Let's take a look at the bombards. Do they trade out? They don't, because there's a little bit of health left, but both shots landing, so relatively accurate. But the Trebs doing absolute work up towards the north. Going to be doing work now down towards the south until they get taken out by the pikemen as well. So a bit of a difficult spot for both players, but as you mentioned, it's really just about holding on at this point, and these pikes are really going to just enable that to happen.
Exactly. Demon Ship doesn't need to do anything. They're already setting up trade, whereas Project Belgium's teams is nowhere close to that, but we just have to look at the north here and the fact that it's 11 army for Sito and 37 for his opponent. Sito doesn't even have a town center right now to make more villagers that he were losing, and he's about to lose access to this wood line over here, and he's just being forced back more and more. And in the moment Project Belgium needs to run in here to help with the cavalry, we are gonna have Demon Ship run in with Condottieri and just destroy Project Belgium's eco. He's down to 100 vills with 30 idols.
Maybe he'll even bring a siege tower with him. But now, as you mentioned, the Cavaliers are going to be engaging up towards the north of the map. And potentially going to be taking on the whole army. The Mamelukes doing their best to just throw axes in this game. Are they throwing axes? What are they throwing there?
They're throwing swords. That's actually one of the units that deals ranged melee damage. So...
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, so it bypasses the ranged armor. Very cool unit, the Mameluke.
So...
the Cavaliers just doing their best to chase it away.
Exactly. Mamelukes are very powerful when you can mess them. It takes quite a lot of time to mess them, and you don't usually see them very frequently, but against melee units, Mamelukes are very good. They don't really have good upgrades though, so they're more like an auxiliary unit here for Sorakuma, and it looks like we might see some camos coming in now for him. But now Project Belgium, is he gonna hold this one? Because he's holding the south, and now they're counterattacking the north.
It definitely doesn't seem like he's going to hold, and it looks like the counterattack towards the north is probably going to fizzle out, and down towards the south, the question is really going to just rest on these trebuchets, and whether these trebuchets survive. We see that the castle is slowly getting taken out by the bombard cannons, combined with the trebuchets, and the villagers just doing their best to heal it up, just tapping like mad. Pike's beginning to move into the base, but now we see some units coming down from Sido, our Portuguese player, going to be defending the Project Belgium, our Persian player. So a little bit curious, both players sort of helping each other out, lending a hand on both of their respective sides of the map. And bombard cannons now going to get chased away by the Cavaliers, managing to take them all out. Are those Genoese crossbows? What were those? Because they just absolutely did work. Holy, whoa, gosh. What are the bonuses that the Genoese crossbowmen have got against cavalry? That's huge.
They got enormous bonus. Like, Gembos are a direct counter to cavalry. They are the only archer unit that has like a considerable bonus against cavalry here. Looks like Sorakuma's gonna hold Sito now from the north, but this buys some time for Project Belgium's team, and we have seen in the first game that if you give them time, there is maybe a hope to reboom. Still, this is the other reason why I pick Italians on this map. It's one thing that their naval build is very good, it's one thing that they have a discount on their fishing ships, but Genoese crossbows in late game is such a powerful unit, because it is a direct counter to cavalry, unlike just standard arbalests. So it's always like in late game cavalry plus archers. But when you have archers that directly counter cavalry, that's even better.
Yeah, it's for me, it's one of the curious things, because as far as I'm aware, I don't think Italians are really considered a top tier civilization in 1v1, but I feel like having an archer unit with a bonus against cavalry would really be something that's, quite important. Or quite strong. So, yeah, curious to hear that. But,
exactly.
This castle just, doing its best to stay alive. These villagers just tapping like mad. I think they must have been tapping at least for the last 2 or 3 minutes. They've been really doing a great job of just securing this castle. I guess I asked the question, is it worth it? I know that it's worth it to try and keep that castle up. If that castle does fall, it's going to have a lot of difficulty maintaining control of the south of the map.
Exactly. One thing to consider is that we mentioned what you need for trade is corners, otherwise your trade is gonna be more and more inefficient. So for Demon Ship, it's also sufficient to just deny this corner, because eventually trade is going to start kicking in. Sorakuma and Demon Ship already have trade, whereas there is nothing from Project Belgium and Sito, so they will run out of gold entirely. Project Belgium has no gold income right now.
That's a really difficult spot, somewhere you don't want to be in the late game. Spamming trash in team games is always suboptimal, and finally we do see that castle going down. Gosh, it must have been about 4 or 5 minutes of just constant villager bashing on that castle, but it does finally go down to the last trebuchet. So a difficult spot now for mYinsanity. Looks like they're going to be trying their best to hold on towards the north here, but the Mamelukes are slowly pushing forward now. They're fighting up against those skirmishers, and skirmishers, as far as I remember, have got a very high ranged armor, but very low melee armor, so the Mamelukes should do incredibly well against them.
It's debatable, because, sure enough, there is low melee armor for the skirms, but Mamelukes are also considered, like, in terms of their armor class, they are considered to be, oh my goodness, that was beautiful.
Wow.
They are considered to be ranged units, so skirmishers do bonus damage against Mamelukes as well. So probably not an ideal fight over there. myi just setting up the trade, but at this point you already have bombard towers coming in. Another reason why Italians are so good, mostly on closed maps, because Italians really show their power when they can just slowly grind you down. They're very slow moving, but when they start rolling, they're actually really powerful. Bombard cannons, Genoese crossbows, bombard towers to solidify map control.
It's all coming out today. He's really bringing out all the stops Demon Sheep is. And now towards the north of the map, have we got these winged hussars? What are these coming out?
Those are just standard hussars, but they already have wings. The winged hussars were actually in the new DLC, but funnily enough, all hussars in the game already had wings. So
Really? Okay. Very, very cool hussars. Very flamboyant hussars. But yeah, I like the look of them. They look great. It's cool to hear that the winged hussar has now been added, though. But unfortunately, we've now got GG getting called, and we are heading to game number 5. Sito calling the GG. Big line going through his name. So very well played over to our Taiwanese team. That takes them to 2 points now, evening up this series. Going to be taking us to a game 5 Lidicore that leaves us with one map, if I remember correctly. Which map is it going to be? Do you remember?
Exactly. I'll have to check, but yeah, it was really no option here for Sito and Project Belgium. They had to realize that they don't have any trade going on. This late in the game, they're out of gold. Even if they had gold, their unit composition would be inferior, but when you get bombard towers in your trade in a team game, that's usually the end of the story. Like, very, very long team games end by one team losing their trade. And if you don't even have the chance to set it up, then it's even worse. So there was really no options here. Sito was getting pushed back. Project Belgium wasn't able to control the corner anymore. So that is a win here for the Taiwanese team. And that means that we indeed have one more game. So that is going to be on... I'll have to check myself. And that is Golden Pit, a very, very traditional map to play. So we've seen Cape of Storms, we've seen Forest Pond, Canberra. These are mostly just played in tournaments. They're not in the ranked map pool, for example. On the other hand, Golden Pit is sort of a legacy map. It has been one of the most ancient tournament maps in the history of Age of Empires.
So Golden Pit, obviously gold being the most important resource. You know, it's all about getting your hands on that gold, that good stuff. Golden Pit has got a lot of gold in the pit, in the middle of the map.
Exactly, and you have very little starting gold. So this is one of those maps where you're going to have to fight for those resources very relentlessly. We have Tatars, Bulgarians, Burgundians remaining for mYinsanity, and Mayans, Slavs, Teutons for Kaio All Fallen. Let's take a look what they are going to do and who's going to play for Kaio All Fallen, because that's another question over here. Looks like they keep Sorakuma and Demon Sheep in a party. So looks like...
Very curious.
Looks like Cloud is going to remain on the bench. Maybe they felt like this was the duo that they wanted. After the previous win, maybe Cloud just felt like, hey, this map doesn't really suit me that much. We'll have on the south the Taiwanese team, Kaio All Fallen, Sorakuma Slavs in blue. You have Mayans for Demon Sheep in green. Other side, Sito in red Tatars. And we have Project Belgium as yellow Bulgarians.
So the fight on this map is going to be largely around the center. What do you expect to see in this game?
It's a tough one because there's many ways that you can approach this. Usually the meta is that the cavalry player goes very aggressively on Castle Age cavalry, so triple stable knights or so. Oftentimes you see Berbers being used for that. And then the archer player just tries to retain his archer mass and try to hit an early Imperial, because you hit that early imp, you get Arbalest. That allows you to dominate fights and secure the middle. Because you start with some gold, and securing the middle early doesn't mean a lot, because the players, like the opponents, can still take gold back at home. You have to secure the middle exactly at the time when your opponent runs out of gold back at home.
Is there space big enough in the center to place down castles?
Yeah, absolutely.
Plenty of space.
Absolutely. You can place
So is that
down
something
centers.
that you expect we're going to see here?
Usually, since castles would cost you quite a bit of a stone, usually what players do at the beginning is to place TCs. So they at least secure a foothold there, something that they can use to protect their villas, potentially fall back to. But later on, if the game goes longer, absolutely. In fact, whoever keeps his castles alive in the pit is going to win the game here.
Very curious to see. I'm looking forward to it. We've got a couple of units beginning to hit over on the base of Sito. It's not the first time he's experienced early pressure. This Taiwanese team loves to apply pressure. I think in every single game that we've seen so far, they've gone out early and hard with the pressure. So no surprise that we see it out in this 5th game in the series. It is match point. So the winner of this game is going to be taking home the victory for the series. So a very, very important game. And I'm suspecting if I was a betting man, I'd be putting my money on mYinsanity. I'm still very impressed with the way that Sito held in that first game and just that boom that he was able to pull off. It's interesting to note that they are targeting him in this 5th game, potentially realizing that he is the threat and that they've got to apply that pressure. Don't let him boom at all costs, because when he does, he's going to go ham. So I suspect that's probably why we do see all this pressure down here towards the south of the map. What do you think, Ludicor?
Exactly. One of the advantages of having an American civilization over here, like Mayans for Demonship, is that he can mix in a couple of Eagles, which are very good at absorbing arrow fire here. As for now, Sito is just gonna fall back. And we did talk about Tumbring. Tatars get Tumbring for free upon hitting Castle Age. So...
Oh, wow.
That is a massive boost to them. Makes their crossbows in early Castle Age very, very powerful. Thank you so much for the raid, ma'am. Welcome.
Not only do they not have to research it, but it's already done for them when they get up. So it's like it is shadow tech, essentially.
Exactly. That's something that you get immediately for free. Something that's a very massive bonus. That's one of the reasons why they love to play their Cav Archers as well. Because for Cav Archers, Tumbling matters a lot more. And the fact that you get it for free helps quite a bit. For now, it looks like we have Castle Age coming in for almost everybody. Sito is a little bit behind because he went very heavy on the archers.
Yeah, he is beginning to push out as well with this archer mass. We can see that most players have managed to secure their bases relatively well. Sorakuma deciding to do so as well with a couple of walls, palisade reinforcements coming in now as well on the back line, just to make sure that those scouts don't really get off too much harassment, and just a little bit of idle time there is going to cost him. Other than that, he's going to be relatively safe. A couple upgrades coming in as well. And now the action begins because the archers are here, and that's really going to prevent a lot from, this front line from being reinforced. We can see that he's having a double house back over here, and just how long the range is on these archers, just really just firing off on these villagers as they try and get these walls up. But now we've got a bit of... Is this a stone wall coming down right here? He means business. When you pull out the stone wall, that is when you mean business. And trying his best to get that one up without losing too many villagers. It looks like the villagers are going to be able to escape without taking or sustaining any significant losses. So I would call that a victory. Definitely for Sorakuma. He's feeling pretty good because he's sustained that pressure. He's got up to Castle H. He's looking good. He's got his farms down. He's feeling happy.
Exactly. He really needed those stone walls because he didn't really go for a huge amount of scouts. He wanted to just go straight into Castle Age. And that means that, obviously, their military numbers weren't good enough to hold this one, so they needed to do it with walls. Looks like we have a retreat coming in here for Sito. Sorakuma now has knights, so Sito has to wait until he has crossbowmen before he can take fights at all.
All right, we've got that final age up now coming in for Sito, hitting into the castle age. He's got those upgrades straight away in queue. We see the economic wood upgrade as well as that crossbow upgrade coming in. So feeling extra nice, extra spicy. He's going to be looking to potentially engage once that's finished. And you mentioned that players are going to be looking to expand towards the center once they've finished that gold in their base. Now, how long is it going to take before that gold runs out? You mentioned that typically the gold is a lot less than what you'd expect on a normal map, say something like Arabia. So we're at the 11-minute mark right now. How long do you think until that gold's going to be out?
It's hard to say. As you look at Sito, for example, he is finishing off his first gold mine around this time, or they started the second one, and you probably don't want to wait until you run out of completely. So I would expect players to start moving towards the middle. In the next couple of moments, you see that these piles are pretty much out.
Yeah,
and
they're running very low.
yeah, normally on Arabia or in standard maps, you have 7 plus 4 plus 4 tiles of gold. Here you only have 3 plus 3, so you actually have less than half of the gold that you would have on Arabia. In exchange, obviously, you have pretty much infinite in the middle.
There's a lot of gold in the middle, yeah. Is that 190 gold stones right there with 800 in each of them?
Yeah, that's exactly the count. Pretty much infinite. I've never seen...
I'm going to do some maths right there. Yep, you're right. That works out to be infinity. That is a lot of gold. But speaking of a lot, there's a lot of crossbowmen that are beginning to move into the base of Demon Sheep right now. Now, keep in mind, these two guys are not allied. So these guys are going to be fighting it out. Often people will be looking at green and red and thinking, hold on a minute, aren't these guys friends? No, they are not. And it looks like Demon Sheep is going to be able to repel that slight push. But now we're back over towards the action, and just take a look at how big that Night Mass is over for our yellow player, Project Belgium. He's going to be in a pretty decent spot here. Curious to see exactly what upgrades he's got. Actually, I just realized I think I can actually see that in the top right-hand corner. Oh, okay. Hold on. I'm going to try and work this out. It's over in the top left-hand corner. So I can see that he's got the cavalry or the horseshoe one, and he's got 2 stars in that. So that means he's got... is that 2 horse or 2 armor? What exactly is that?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's the feudal age armor, castle age armor, and the last one would be imperial age armor. And that means he's got +2 defense. What he needs, that's sort of mandatory for cavalry players over here. So that is why both of them are having it. And what's more interesting is that Project Belgium is mining stone here. So if I'm not mistaken, this won't be a castle. This will be a krepost, a building unique to Bulgarians. It's like a small castle. It's weaker, but it's stronger than just a tower or so. And this could be a very, very nice building to control the middle of it.
So do you think he's going to be positioning it safely for himself, or do you think he's going to be look to go a bit more aggressive with it, position it down towards the center? I would wait for your response, but I feel like you've already got that response because you've seen exactly where he's going to be placing it, and it's quite aggressive right next to that wolf down there.
Exactly, that's a pretty aggressive krepost. What I like about it is that it's not something that's visible for Demon Sheep right now. Although, it doesn't really matter because it's not like he can do much against this one. He's gonna lose that TC anyways. But what this does is denies a lot of gold mines. On the other hand, the Taiwanese team is heading straight towards Project Belgium's base, and sure enough, gold is an important resource, but when you get your entire farming eco potentially annihilated by knights and crossbows, that may not be that suitable for you. I think there's a hole in between those 2 houses.
Definitely a hole right now, because
there is a hole.
Yep. Well, that's a very big hole, isn't it? It doesn't look very big, but you can fit a lot of horses through there.
Exactly, and Project Belgium has to scramble for a town center over here. He knows exactly he's in trouble, but this many knights can just jump under the TC, and this is the interesting duality of this map. The gold seems to be the most important, but you could just lose your entire starting eco, and that feels like that's going to be the case for Project Belgium, trying to do the exact same here for Demon Sheep.
Yeah, well, it looks like we got a little bit of a base race right now on our hands, don't we?
Exactly. Project Belgium is going to get clapped, and I feel like Demon Sheep has better tools of holding this one than Project Belgium, and we could be in for a bit of an upset. Because
yeah, I think we might be. This is huge.
This is huge. Because right now, Project Belgium is losing so much here. Down to 33 eco. And it's not like he's going to be able to save this whatsoever.
This is a really difficult spot. I genuinely didn't expect this. I think a lot of people were expecting that Sito was going to be coming in to this game looking extra good. And now we see Project Belgium trying to clean up those all-important crossbows from Demon Sheep in his base. He's going to be able to do it, but those crossbows continuing to move away. They've got those upgrades, so they're going to be extra tanky, but it's going to be one of those things where they just slowly repel it with the assistance of the town center. Going to force them back and try and find their way to a wood line, but it looks like they're going to be able to be managing to do relatively well.
Sito is actually managed, alongside with the help of Project Belgium, to push Demon Sheep down to 29 villas as well, so pretty much Demon Sheep and Project Belgium are both dead. But there's a difference here. Project Belgium is gonna lose this town center as well, I believe. And Demon Sheep didn't lose his TC, so now his villagers, at least what remains of those, are safe. Project Belgium will not have any safe villagers here in the next couple of moments.
He's going to have a really difficult time. There are crossbows that are moving up now from the south of the map over with Sitao, but he's going to have a difficult time in defending these. The town center does look like it might manage to hold on with the reinforcing crossbows. Going to be able to do it. Can Sito save the day? I spoke earlier about how many people would have expected Sito coming into this series to be the highlight, the big guy, the guy who's going to carry it. And it looks like in this 5th game, he may potentially be coming through here because the crossbow mass is beginning to build for him. We see a significant amount of them out on the field at the moment. There's 40 of them compared to his opponent who's on 43, but just doesn't seem to have them in the right places at the moment.
Exactly, and if you think about it, Demon Sheep is half dead, Project Belgium is half dead, but 87 villagers with 50 army for Sito, 53 villagers and 3 army for Sorakuma. So Sorakuma doesn't really have the army to defend his base now. His teammate Demon Sheep does, but Demon Sheep doesn't have the eco to replenish this army. So I feel like the key thing here is that Sito is actually having more villagers than the 2 Taiwanese players combined.
And I think that's pretty much, you know, the message of the series. It's just that big Sito boom that we are so familiar with seeing here. And now we've got a little bit of a difficult spot for those knights as they ran into some crossbows, but everything is going to be okay as they head back towards the safety of the crossbows of their allies. If we take a look at the middle, it looks like we've got a town center that is getting dropped down as we speak, or at least planning to get dropped down for Surakuma. But a curious position because he's got a lot of units in his base at the moment and needs to try and repel them out. He is aware of them, but one of the things that you mentioned was just how big the economy is of Sito at this point. And I guess really the question is, can he be caught at this point? I feel like he's a bit of a runaway train.
It's a tricky situation because, sure enough, Sito's economy is enormous, but we gotta consider that Tatars don't have Arbalest upgrade here, so these crossbows will soon become obsolete despite him reaching him. The best thing that Sito can do right now is trade off those crossbows to the ones of Demon Sheep, and then just transition to Cav Archers as he started to do it right now.
Tell me a bit about these Cav Archers. So I'm from Age of Empires 3, where Cav Archers work a little bit differently than Cav Archers in Age of Empires 2. What do Cav Archers counter? Where do they work in this rock, paper, scissors formula?
They are basically just mounted archers as they are, so they behave just like crossbowmen. They're just moving faster, they're tankier, a lot more population efficient. They're best used against like pikemen or so. That's an interesting thing because they will have a bonus damage against pikemen, but pikemen also have a bonus damage against them. So really, the key thing here is mobility and the fact that they have a damage output, like a very, very good universal damage output, as we have a castle drop coming in here for Sito. And that's the time where the Taiwanese team is going to start struggling because they're running out of gold.
Yeah, this is great timing here from Sito. And one of the things that you mentioned at the start of this game is you really want to try and time this push right when your opponent is about to come into the center and needs that extra gold. And that's exactly what we look like we've got happening right here. Another town center going to be going down in the middle. More crossbows now for Sito, going to be pushing in. And we've got GG getting called. Good luck. Sorakuna saying good luck. It's all over Red Rover. My coming out with the big one. And I tell you what, an impressive series. Really, really impressive. Went down to the line, Lidicor, 5 games. Back and forth, both games. You know, it was win, loss, win, loss, win. So impressive stuff. Really well played.
Exactly. It was a pretty close game over here. And at the end, what probably was the key is that we've had basically lost Project Belgium. We had basically lost Demon Sheep over here. But behind this one, Sito was actually able to outboom Sorakuma here. And that's probably what you would expect when you propose this theoretical situation. Sito is an individually better player than Sorakuma over here. And that was the story the whole time, that individually they are better players. Sorakuma and Demon Sheep always had to play very aggressive to play that. And also, if you remember the Forest Fund play game, they really had to capitalize on that early aggressiveness. That didn't really happen here. It almost worked out. But then you have the villagers of Demon Sheep lost. If these villagers weren't lost here, then I don't see a chance for mYi, because Project Belgium was dead. It came down to the fact that both teams lost one player, and the remaining players, Sito was much stronger than Sorakuma.
Yeah.
And he reached Imperial, and that's where Sorakuma just said, okay, it's over. You have a castle in our face, we have no access to gold, you're Imperial Age, and you also are going to have a bunch of cav archers that is just going to be impossible to catch for Sorakuma. Those cav archers will just keep running around picking off vills from both players, and they are the ones that can decide which fight to take and which not to.
Yeah. I think when it comes back to the series, we just saw the Taiwanese team was incredibly aggressive, and at the end of the day, Sito was just absolutely calm under pressure and managed to keep it together. And at the end of the day, it was his economic prowess that survived and carried the game. So very well played to the Frenchman.
Exactly. Congratulations to mYi, but massive shout out to Demon Sheep and Sorakuma, and of course Cloud as well, because they were the underdogs over here, but this was a very, very competitive set, and in fact, they weren't really far away from qualifying. mYi, maybe a bit more experience with Empire Wars, maybe just small things going in their favor, piled up for a slightly better score for them. 3-2 is the end, and that means that Sito, Project Belgium, and Daniel, who hasn't played today, will qualify for the main event. I would say this was the predictable result was that mYi qualifies over Cairo Fallen, but 3-2 wasn't really predictable that much.
Yeah, I got to agree with you. It was looking a bit scary at one point.
Definitely.
It did look like there was going to be an upset. So they did very well to pull this one out. So very impressed.
One more thing to highlight. One more thing to highlight is that each team won its own respective home map. So at the end, what decided was Arabia being won by Sito and Project Belgium. If you remember that game, Project Belgium lost 9 or 13 villagers at the beginning of the game. So that almost felt like the Taiwanese team almost had that game, but they sort of allowed mYi to come back, and that was what ended this set, or at least decided this set at the end, because otherwise each team won their own home maps, so the decider was actually the Arabia game.
Yeah, it was that game in particular was definitely, I mean, there were a lot of great games in this set, incredible games, but that was definitely a highlight. I genuinely didn't expect they'd be able to manage to come back into that game, and they somehow did. So yeah, to think that was the game that cost them, it's frustrating for them.
Exactly.